Hello, this is the promised video to explain to you how to make Mater burgers, aka cabbage hamburgers. I was going to actually show you, but I forgot to thaw out the hamburger meat, and I didn't want to wait because I know everyone's anxiously awaiting this video. So I will explain it. If you have questions, text me, give me a call. So it's 3 ingredients, well, 4 if you count the hamburger bun. You need ground beef. 80% works good because then it makes them a little juicier, but if you're into low fat, then 90% works. You have to cook them a little bit longer. You need green cabbage. Don't do red cabbage. My daughter Emily bought red cabbage one time. We made them with red cabbage because we had to feed the missionaries. It turned out okay, but don't use red cabbage, use green cabbage. And you'll need 1 onion. So starting out, you make hamburger patties, put them on a cookie tray with some wax paper. You make them your regular size hamburger buns, probably just about that thick, not much thicker than maybe a half an inch or so. And put them all out there. We usually, however many you can fit onto your grill or your skillet. These can't be cooked outside on the grill. I meant the grill like the flat black electric grill. So anyway, okay, so you got your hamburger patties, probably about, I don't know how big, bigger than this. So anyway, regular hamburger patties. Okay, then you have your green cabbage. You shred it with the small shredder, and you don't add anything to it. You just shred the cabbage, and you put a handful of cabbage on the top of each hamburger patty. Kind of spread it around so it's about as thick as the hamburger patty itself. So you put that on there. Then you take your onions. Now it depends on who you talk to. My uncle Dave chops his onions. I think my dad chopped his onions, but I shred my onions. And then you put some onions on top of the cabbage, spread it around a little bit. Then you do a little salt and pepper. Then you cook them, like you fry them. So you take your hamburger and you put it on the griddle or whatever you're cooking it on, frying pan. You put it with the meat side down and let it cook until the meat looks pretty cooked through. Then carefully you flip it over, and so that the hamburger is sitting on top of the cabbage and the onion mixture. And then what I do is then I put a cookie sheet on top of the burgers to keep the steam from going away, so it helps cook that hamburger so they get cooked all the way through. You let that cook for a while. You don't turn them back and forth again. You only turn them that one time, so make sure they're done on the bottom before you flip them, because you can't flip them back and forth. Just depending on how everything cooks, I think it takes maybe 10-15 minutes for the whole thing to cook. The last little bit of time, you take your hamburger buns, you put the bottom of the hamburger bun right on top of the hamburger, which is just the meat part, and you put the top of the bun on top of that one. You take the cookie sheet off the hamburgers, and you put the bottom of the bun, and then you put the top of the bun so they're kind of steaming a little bit and they kind of soak up everything for the last about 5 minutes of cooking. And then you carefully take off the hamburger. You keep the bottom of the bun on the hamburger. You flip it over and put the lid on the top of it on top of it, and you'll notice that the cabbage and the onion have kind of cooked a little bit. Well, they should be cooked a lot, actually, because the hamburger juice should have cooked in there. And then you can serve them, or you can put them in a big pot, like when we have at our family reunion. You put it in a big pot and put a lid on it, and they sit until we get them all cooked so everybody can eat at the same time. So they kind of steam up a little bit, but you could eat them right away as long as your hamburger's cooked. You have to check and make sure your hamburger's all the way cooked. If you obey my grandpa's instructions, you can only eat these with mayonnaise. But I and a couple of my cousins would sneak into the kitchen and get the Oh, you can only eat it with mustard. Sorry, did I say mayonnaise? You can only eat it with mustard. But my cousins and I would sneak in and get some mayonnaise. Some people actually put ketchup on it. No pickles, no cheese, just cabbage, onions, and burgers, and mustard or mayonnaise or mustard or ketchup. Anyway, one funny thing, when Rick and I were engaged, my grandfather came out to Salt Lake, and he always used to make them. And so I told Rick that if he wanted to impress my family, because this would be the first member of the family that he met, he should eat a lot of cabbage burgers. So I believe Rick ate 8. And so he made a pretty good impression on my grandfather. Now, my grandfather also at one time used to drizzle bacon grease on the griddle. We don't do that. We're a little bit healthier than that, but they were really good. So anyway, so you just need a hamburger, shredded cabbage, shredded onion. Cook it with the hamburger side down first until it looks like the burger's just about cooked. Then carefully flip it over. I push down with the spatula onto the hamburger so it pushes into the cabbage, and let it cook. Cover it for maybe 5-10 minutes with a cookie sheet or something so that it keeps the steam in. Take it off, put your hamburger buns on there, and enjoy. I hope they turn out good. I used to make these for my middle school kids. Every year we had a cultural diffusion day, and we would talk about learning from other cultures. And so they all brought something from their family, and I always brought these cabbage burgers. And amazingly enough, there were very few kids that didn't like them. So if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, enjoy. Every time you eat them, think of my grandfather. He was awesome. Grandpa Osborne was an awesome guy. And they call him Mater because my grandma told us that when it got cold, his nose turned red like a tomato. So they called him because he looked like a Mater tomato. So, but his real name was Lee John Osborne, and he was awesome. So, love you guys. Any questions, give me a holler. Bye.